Good morning, Pedro.
Good morning, ma. How you doing, miss?
You have your book and you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're finishing what we started yesterday. Good morning.
Okay, I'm still eating over here. I'm eating my tacos.
It's not lunchtime till after this class.
I know. I just need to eat my tacos right now.
Mm-hmm. Morning, Karnaya. She goes.
Miss Pelham, Pedro eats his tacos before lunch all the time, so
Before lunch.
Michael, be quiet.
That's his schedule anyways.
All right.
As soon as he gets here, Miss V's class, he eats his tacos.
So usually he eats them even earlier then.
Yep.
Because her class is before mine, right?
Yeah.
Michael, stop saying stuff that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro, you know it's true.
I was like, for some reason, I believe him. Good morning, everybody. Everybody getting here all at once. Good. 1, 2, 3. We got everybody. Good night. What is all that? We're only missing Mia, right? I think for right now. Javier, we don't need to see you up that close and personal. I saw her eyes and hair. All right. All right. So we got everybody except Mia. So, sorry. Everybody, we're working on finishing what we were doing yesterday. Okay, this is the last section of chapter 8. Yay, we're almost done with chapter 8, circles. We went through and we finished 1 through 13. I don't know what that noise was, but we did 1 through 13, and then now we're working on 16 through 24 even, and then 28, 31, 34 through 37. Okay. So there's Mia, probably. Yep, there she is. Okay. So we got everybody here now. So we're working on what we were doing yesterday on pages 389 and 390. So the part that we're starting on now is number 16 through 24 even. So that's actually at the top of page 390. So you need to make sure you have your book ready, and I'll grab my book and then we'll get these done. Okay, we're still trying to work on your all's quiz situation because it doesn't like all the different symbols and stuff for geometry. So that's good for you. That just keeps pushing off your quizzes so you don't have to take any yet. So you'll eventually take them, but it may not be till, I don't know. But we think we figured out how we can get them in there now. So we've gotten closer. So, all right. So everybody's on page 390. We're still working with circles. I still have your formula up here on the board. The center of the circle is H and K. The H is the x-coordinate of the center, which tells you left or right from the origin. The K is the y-coordinate of the center, which tells you up or down from the origin. Then we have our radius, which is R, which is the point from the center to the circle, how many boxes on the coordinate plane. Okay. Then our basic circle equation is x minus h in parentheses squared plus y minus k in parentheses squared equal to r squared. So it's kind of similar to our Pythagorean theorem. Now for 16, 18, and 20, the directions say, write the equation of a circle centered at point C and passing through point P. So it makes us use something that we did several chapters ago. We have to find the distance from the center to point P, which would be the radius of the circle. So to find a distance on the coordinate plane, we use this lovely formula here, our distance formula. Okay, so it's requiring you to go back and think a little bit about something that we did a few chapters ago. Okay, so I've got the points up here. I'm going to label them. My first ordered pair is my x1 and y1. My second ordered pair will be my x2 and y2, and then we're going to plug them into our distance formula. So this is my x1, y1. This is my x2, y2. And I'm plugging it into my distance formula. So my distance that I'm looking for, remember I said it's going to be the radius of the circle. So instead of putting a D in the front, I'm going to go ahead and put an R just to remind you that we're looking for the radius. Okay? We are looking for the radius. So I've got the big square root. In the first parentheses is x2 minus x1. So my x2 was -4 minus my x1, 0, parentheses squared, plus my second parentheses is y2 minus y1. So my y2 was -7 minus y1, which was 0. And then I've got to simplify each one. Anything minus 0 is just itself. So -4 minus 0 is -4. But -4 squared is going to be a positive 16. Because when you square a negative times a negative is positive. Then I have -7 minus 0 is -7. -7 squared, 7 times 7 is 49.
49.
So now I add those two together. So 16 plus 49. Pedro, what did I tell you about hiding? Oh, quit hiding. All right. So what is 16 plus 49?
I'm scared, miss.
65.
65.
Yeah.
So the radius is the square root of 65. Now, for 65, the only factors that we have with 65 are 5 and 13. So,
Scared of what? Someone's gonna steal tacos?
huh?
I said, Pedro's scared of what? Someone's gonna steal his tacos?
Yeah. You probably ate them all already. All right, so I got 5 and 13. So we can't break that apart, okay?
I'm still eating them right now.
Yes, it's going to be square root of 65. Okay. Now my center was 0 and 0. So now I'm going to plug. Shh.
Miss,
Should I want to hear about tacos or anything? I should see your camera. You should be working. I'm in the
stop
middle.
working.
All right. So I have my radius. I have my center. Remember the center, this is my H, and this is my K. So I'm ready to plug it into my formula to write the equation for the circle. So when I go to do that, I have x minus 0, because that was my H squared, plus y minus k, which was 0 squared, equals the radius, square root of 65, squared. Okay, I'm just writing the equation. Now, we did this yesterday on some of the problems where we plugged in the center and the radius. The only thing different on these is we had to find the radius ourselves first. Now, when I take x minus 0, I just get x. So I have x squared plus, when I take y minus 0, I just get y. Y squared equals the square root of 65 squared. When you square a square root for inverse operations, they cancel each other out. So your final answer is just x squared plus y squared equals 65. This part right here is like what we did yesterday. Take the center, the h and k, and the radius, you plug them into the equation, and then we simplified it. The difference is we had to find the length of our radius first using the distance formula. Okay. Now you'll notice I skipped number 18. Y'all are going to try that one on your own in a minute. But we're going to do number 20 first because number 20 is a little bit more complicated. Okay, with the numbers that you have to plug in and more negatives. So we're doing that one together. So the first thing we do is we start by finding our radius, the distance between point C and point P. So in order to do that, this is my x1, y1. This is my x2, y2. And I'm plugging them into the big square root formula. So my radius is equal to this big square root. So in my first parentheses, I take x2 minus x1 squared. And in the second parentheses, I take y2 minus y1 squared. So all I'm doing is plugging those numbers in, okay? x2 was -7, x1 was 6. So I have -7 minus 6 in the first one, okay? Second one was y's. I have y2 was -5 minus y1, which was -4. You have to be careful on here though, because you do have a lot of negatives. Okay, so when I go to do this, I have -7 minus 6. -7 minus 6 is -13. -13 squared is positive 169. That's 13 times 13. On this one, when you have minus a negative, remember, it becomes plus a positive. So -5 plus 4 is simply -1. -1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. So I add those together and I get square root of 170. Can we simplify the square root of 170?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Yep, maybe not.
Maybe not. 170 would be 17 times 10. 17 is a prime number, right? 17 is a prime number. So you have 2 times 5 is 10 times 17. So there's nothing in there. You don't have any perfect square factors, no duplicate factors to take outside. So you just have square root of 170. So now we're ready to plug it into our circle equation formula. Okay, so I have in parentheses squared plus in parentheses squared equals radius squared. So in the first parentheses, I have x minus h. So I have x minus my center point, first coordinate was 6. And then the second parentheses, I have y minus k. My k coordinate was -4. And then it's equal to my radius that we just calculated squared, square root of 170. Okay, so on here I can simplify. I can't do anything with that one, so I write it down. On here I can simplify a little bit because minus a negative is going to make it a positive, so it becomes y plus 4 squared. And then here, when you have a square root squared, you end up with just the number 170. So this is your answer for number 20. Okay. Yes, you got it? Hey, Joe, can you see everything now?
Yeah, I got it, miss.
Okay. All right. So we're good with number 16 and 20?
Yep.
So what do I want you to do then?
18.
Number 18.
Relax and sleep.
What?
Relax and sleep.
No. Do number 18. Do number 18.
Need help.
You need help. You're supposed to be trying it on your own.
You no comprende.
Let's see, X1.
ignore it. Sorry. My phone's on vibrate, but then it connects to my computer.
Miss, I can't concentrate with that noise.
Oh, you're one to talk about noise, buddy. All right. Everybody, please start off this way for number 18. Everybody see where I'm at? Now at the bottom. Here. This C is your X1 and Y1. P is your X2 and Y2. We start plugging them into our distance formula to find our radius. So what goes in the first parenthesis?
X2. Yeah, X2.
Which is what?
Oh, 24.
So I got 24 minus
0.
0 in the first parentheses, and then the second parentheses I'll have
10.
10.
4 minus,
3.
okay? So 24 minus 0 is 24. 10 minus 3 is 7. So when I start to do my radius, I'm going to have a big number for 24 squared, right? It's 5 something. 576
Ooh.
plus 7 squared, which is
49.
9. So that gives me that, right?
Yep, I got all
Can
of
we
it.
take the square root of that? That should be one some of you may know.
Maybe. Yeah.
What is it?
Ooh, I don't know. Ooh, wait. 25.
Yeah, good. I already wrote it on the board, but all right. So that's our radius, okay? So after we have our radius, we are ready to plug it into our circle equation. So in the first parentheses, I need somebody to tell me what goes in there. Okay, there's more than just Javier that's in here. I need to
X
start
minus 0.
people. Huh?
X minus 0.
X minus 0 goes in the first parentheses, good. In the second parentheses,
Y plus 3.
y minus
3.
minus 3. And my r was 25. And then we simplify this. X minus 0 is simply just x. I'll have x squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 25 squared. We knew was 625. So that was number 18, even though you were supposed to do it on your own. We just did it together. After everybody's got that one down, we're skipping to number 22 and 24. We're doing just evens on those. Now our directions on 22 and 24 are different. We're still kind of doing the same thing, but we don't have to find the radius. We're going to have to do something that it was on your notes called completing the square. It's something that you should have done in algebra, whether you had algebra 1 or algebra 2, because my algebra 1s just did it last week. So, and algebra 2s also did it this year. So it's something you should have had before, completing the square. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using on number 22 and 24. Okay, it says write the standard form equation of each circle and state its center and radius. So what it gives us is an equation, but it's definitely not in the standard form. So what I'm going to do first is you want the x parts together and you want the y parts together before you try to do any of the completing the square stuff. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it because we can change the order of things using our property called the commutative property. So since we can change the order of things, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these where they're next to each other. So we'll have x squared minus 14x. And then I'm going to have the y squared minus 16y equals negative 13. All I did was I changed the order so my x parts were together and my y parts were together. Okay? That's the first thing you got to do. Now, to complete the square, you're trying to get this so we can get it into something that's in parentheses squared. Remember, our equation formula was x minus h in parentheses squared, y minus k in parentheses squared. So we're trying to get something that's going to have that in parentheses squared. So to do that, we're going to take x squared minus 14x plus something. Okay, that's my first part. I'm going to just put the x's in parentheses plus y squared minus 16y plus something. I'm going to put that in parentheses is equal to negative 13 plus something plus something. Because remember, whatever you do on one side of the equation, you have to always do to the other. So if I'm doing something here, I got to put it over here as well. If I'm doing something here, I have to put it over here as well. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. Now, the way we complete the square is you take half of the linear term. The linear term is the one in front of the variable. Okay, so what's half of 14?
7.
7. And then I square that number because it's called completing the square. So we're adding that square to both sides. So 7 squared is 49. But whatever I do on one side of the equation, I have to do on the other. So if I add 49 here, I also have to add 49 over there. Okay. Now for the next one, it had 16 in front of the y. So we do the same concept. Half of 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 squared. 8 times 8 is
64.
64. Again, whatever I add here, I also have to add on the other side over there. Okay. Now, the reason this works is because what it gives us inside of the parentheses is something that we call a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so now what we have is a perfect square trinomial. So with the perfect square trinomial, it gives us something that factors into a parentheses squared. So when we do this, what times itself is x squared? X. What times itself is 49? 7.
49.
It had a minus sign. It had a minus. So does that look like our circle formula now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing here. Then I have plus, and then I got to do it for my second parentheses. What times itself is y squared? Y. What times itself 64? 8. Had a minus sign, minus. So it's getting us that circle equation formula. And then over here, I just got to add all that stuff together. Okay, so I had negative 13 plus 49 plus 64. What are y'all getting for that?
Oh.
I got 100. Okay. Now, it told us after we got the equation to also state the center and the radius. Okay, remember your center is the H and the K. Your H is with the X, your K is here. So the center will be 7, 8. My radius is the square root of this number. Because this right here is r squared. So I take the square root of it and the radius will be 10. So we had to complete the square for the x's and the y's. We had to factor into the perfect square, into the binomial squared. And then we could name our center and our radius. Now, all those steps that we just did on 22, we're going to try to do the same thing for number 24. Okay, so our first step that we had to do was rewrite it in the correct order. Okay, it's not in the correct order right now. I need my x's together and I need my y's together. Okay, I need my x's together and I need my y's together. Okay, so that's what I'm doing first. I'm going to have x squared, oops, I keep putting a plus, minus 16x. And then I'm going to have y squared minus 22y equals negative 105. All I did was get the x's together and the y's together. Okay? Now the next part is I'm ready to do the completing the square part. So I have x squared minus 16x plus blank. And then I have y squared minus 22y plus blank equals negative 105 plus blank plus blank. Okay? Everybody see that? So that's where we're at on number 24. Now, when we go to complete the square, you take half of the linear term. That's the term that has the x without the exponent on it. So I take 16 divided by 2, which is 8. I take 8 and square it and get 64. That completes this square. It makes it a perfect square trinomial. Whatever I do on one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So I also have to add 64 over there. For the y part, my linear term for the y is the y that doesn't have the exponent on it. So it's 22. So 22 divided by 2, everyone should be able to say is 11. And then I take 11 squared and get 121. Whatever I add on that side, I have to add on the other side. You have to keep your equation balanced. What you do on one side, you do to the other. Now, when we get to this point, it's when we do the factors in the parentheses squared, which gets it into our circle equation formula, which is what we're wanting. So I'll have something in parentheses squared plus something in parentheses squared equals something. Okay, so for x squared minus 16x plus 64, x squared is x, 64 was 8, and it had a minus sign, so it's x minus 8. For y squared minus 22y plus 121, y squared was y, 121 we know was 11, it had a minus sign, so it's a minus. And then on the other side, you combine all that together, so you have 121 and 64 added with the negative 105 you already had, and you get what? That's good. Negative 105 plus 64 plus 121. How do we get with that?
Trying to find a negative.
80.
Oh.
80. So we're ready to name our center and our radius. Our center, remember, is the H and the K from here. So my center will be 8, 11. And my radius is the square root of 80. So if I'm trying to take the square root of 80, it's not a perfect square, but I can simplify it. What goes into 80? What do we
10.
multiply to get 80?
10, 8.
8 and 10, right?
Yeah.
And then what do we multiply to get 8?
4 and 2.
4 and 2. When we multiply to get 4?
2 and 2.
2 and 2. When I multiply to get 10?
2 and 5.
2 and 5. So you're taking square root, you look at pairs of things that can go outside. I got a pair of 2's and a pair of 2's. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then they're left with the square root of 5 underneath. So my center was 8, 11, and my radius was 4 square root of 5. So you should have finished everything through number 26 now. I mean number 24, we're not doing number 26. That wasn't on there. Okay, everybody got that? All right, yes, Javier, I see you trying to like head bang, shake your head, yes.
What's number
Of
20?
course, Pedro's still hiding, so we won't talk about what his grade's doing right now.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Let's go to 28. I said you're supposed to have your camera on. That's what I said. All right, so on number 28, you've got y equals x plus 5 and x squared plus y squared equals 25. It gave you two separate equations. It calls two equations together a system of equations. It told us it wanted us to solve this system of equations by graphing. So this means you're going to have to sketch a coordinate plane for this. Now the way that we do that is for the first one, the y equals x plus 5, we can use slope-intercept form. Okay, slope-intercept form is the form y equals mx plus b. So the number in front of x was our slope, and the number that was by itself was our y-intercept where it crossed the y-axis. So this is stuff that you've done in Algebra 1. You just gotta try to remember how to do it. So for this equation, my slope, the number in front of x is 1, or 1 over 1, because slope's usually written as a fraction. My y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, is at 5, at the coordinate 0, 5. So that's how I'm going to draw my line on the graph. This is why we're only doing one of these that you have to graph. Okay. So I have my coordinate plane here, and we'll get to that part in a minute. I'm just graphing it up there. So this is the stuff we're going to use for the first one. Now for the second one, this is going to be a circle. Okay. Our center, if it doesn't have a number in parentheses with the x and a number in parentheses with the y, that means the center is at the origin at 0, 0. So my center is 0, 0. And my radius is the square root of 25. So what times itself was 25?
5.
5. So this is what I'm using for my second one. And that's like what we did, and I think it was number 11. Was it 11, 10, 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there yesterday where we did those? Where we had to graph that stuff? Does that sound familiar at all? Yes, no, maybe? All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to graph the line first. Okay. My line goes through 0, 5. So that means it doesn't go left or right any. It goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, puts a dot. Then my slope from there was 1 over 1. Slope is what we call rise over run. It shows how steep the line is. So that means it's going to go up 1 and over 1, up 1 and over 1 to keep getting more points that are on the line. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Just going to do it a couple times. I can do down 1 and over 1 go in the opposite direction. So I can hopefully halfway draw a straight line. And so your line is going to go something like that. Well, not like that, but should go through over there. But anyway. Okay, so I got my line on there. Now for my circle part, my circle was 0, 0. So my center is right at the origin. Okay, my radius was 5. So like on the ones we did yesterday, that means we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, put a dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, put a dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, put a dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over, put a dot. So our circle, yeah, that's pretty. Isn't that pretty? That's so pretty. I love it. All right, goes like that. Okay.
That looks awesome.
I know, isn't that good? All right.
That's a lemon, Miss Pelham.
Anyway, so where the two things cross is your solutions. Okay, so they cross obviously right here. So that was at 0, 5. And then they also cross down here somewhere. So you would need to give the coordinates of that point, which is like -5, what? I don't think I drew my line right. Hang on. Over 1, down 1. Down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1. Down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. Yeah, my line was supposed to go through there. So it was supposed to go through there too. So at -5, 0. So that's where they crossed. I just can't draw today. That's why we're only doing one we have to draw. Yay. So everybody get their graph done? Isn't it pretty?
I'm trying to do mine.
Okay. Now, number 31 was on there. It had said to graph it. So it's graphing the circles, like what we did yesterday. It's just putting all of them on the same graph. So if you want to try to do 31 and you show me a picture of that when you turn in your other work, then I'll give you extra points, but you don't have to do number 31. Okay? Everybody understand that? Do you have to do 31? You don't have to, but it'll be extra points if you do. Okay? So the last problems that we have to do are 35, 34, 35, 36, 37. Okay?
Oh, man.
What?
Nothing.
These are easy ones. Can everybody add?
Nope.
Somewhat.
If you can add and subtract, you can do 34 through 37. Okay? You can add and subtract, you can do 34 through 37.
Mike was good at adding.
Huh?
Mike was good at adding.
Okay. Glad to know one of you is. All right. So on 34 through 37, the directions say find the requested coordinate value for each circle. So it wants to know the maximum value of the x coordinate, and it wants to know the maximum value of the minimum value of that x coordinate in number 35, minimum value of y in 36, and minimum value of y in 37. So what we're going to start with is it gives you the equation. I'm not writing the equation up here, so you better be looking at your book. Okay, because I'm not writing the equation up here because I don't have enough room left. I'm just writing what I'm getting from the equation, my center and my radius, because I need those to be able to find the max and the min. So looking at the equation they gave you in number 34, what is the center of the circle going to be?
$36.
What are you talking about? 36 is over there by itself. That's not the center. You use that to find the radius. The center are the two numbers that are in the parentheses with your x and your y. So my x coordinate of my center will be 4.
4.
My y coordinate of the center, since it has a +1, it will be the opposite, -1. So that's my center of the circle. Now the radius is not 36, but the square root of 36, which is what? What's the square root of 36?
6.
6. So that's my radius. So if I'm looking for the maximum x value that I can have, that's the biggest that it's going to be, the highest x I'm going to have. Remember, this is my center, so this is where I'm starting at. And then remember, we use the radius to count up and over. So if I'm going to the bigger x, that's going to the right on the coordinate plane, right? Going this way is your x's. So if I'm looking for my highest x, that's going to the right of the coordinate plane. So I'm starting at this x, my center. I add my radius to it, so my max x value will just be 10. And that's it. That's your answer. Okay. We have to find the center and the radius, and then we use those to find the max or the minimum. So on number 35, it's a different equation. My center is going to be what?
9.
9.
-9. And what?
Yep. 9 and 7.
9 and 7.
9 and 7.
9 and 7.
And my radius will be
9.
9.
Okay. Now on this one, I'm starting here at my center, and then I'm going farther to the left because I'm trying to find the lowest x value. So I'm going to the left. So instead of adding the radius, I will subtract the radius. So I'll have -9 minus 9. So what's my minimum x value going to be?
18.
-18. Okay? Pretty easy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhat.
So we're doing the same concept on 36 and 37. On 36, my center of that circle will be what?
51.
51 and 68. My radius would be
8.
8.
square root of 64 is 8. I'm finding the minimum y. So on this one, we're going up and down for the y's. So my max y would be going up or adding. My minimum y is going down, so that will be
Subtracting.
So you're going to take your y coordinate. Remember, this is x. This is y. So do I use 51 this time?
No.
68.
68. So I do 68 minus 8 and get
17.
60.
60 for my minimum.
Oops.
Last one. Thank the Lord. Okay. Everybody looking at your book? What is the center of the circle?
79.
They have plus signs in the parentheses, so they're not going to be positive. They're going to be
Oh.
-79 and -84, right? The radius, it was equal to 144, so my radius will be the square root of that, which is
12.
12. Now on this one, you're looking for the maximum. Maximum is going up, okay, your highest y value. So I take my y value from here, which was
-84.
-84, and I add 12 to it. So since I have a negative number to begin with and adding 12, I'll still get a negative number, but it's going to be negative what?
-96.
If I'm at -84 and I'm going up 12, I'm not going to be at -96. That's
-72.
-72. There we go. Oh, mercy. All right. That was the last one. So if you got to do If you want, you can try to do number 31. Remember, y'all need to be working on that chapter 8 review still. Yes? Everybody working on their chapter 8 review?
No,
What do you mean no?
I'm too busy.
I'm almost done.
Too busy or too lazy? Which one is it?
I'm too busy.
Okay, so you need to do 1 through 32 on the review, and then we're skipping some because we didn't do the one section.
Hey, Michael,
What?
Through 42.
what's up? How's it going?
It's going good.
Pedro, huh? So on the review, it's 1 through 32, and then 36 through 42. Okay, that's the part that you need to be working on. Tomorrow, we're going to spend time doing part of the review problems together. So if you've already done them, then you can be checking to see if you did them correctly. If not, we're not doing all of them because we'll have to finish them. Okay? So remember, if you've got your bookwork done and you can take pictures of it and email it to me, that's probably the best way for me to see it. My email is just the cfpelham@harvestacademy.net.
The what?
It's cfpelham.
CF?
I not talk to you no more. All right.
I can't hear you over.
If you're in My School Works and you start typing my name, it should pull it up and you just click on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay? If you're in my name, you're in My School Works, you go to messaging, you go to compose message, you start typing in Pelham, it should pop up with mine and Mr. Pelham's. You click on me. I'll get it. Okay? So make sure you have all these done. If you do number 31 again, remember I said I will count that as extra points. Okay? Like I said, just keep on the lookout. I'll give you an update when we do get the quizzes working for the geometry, and we'll go from there. All right? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, are you good? I just see half your face. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
The whole entire class, yeah.
Right? He's been there. Like you. All right. So we'll see you all.
Miss Phelps, you can see me now?
Yes. I'll see you all later. Monica, are you good with chemistry?
It's literally
Yes,
just a
ma'am.
black shadow.
Okay.